It is officially Throwback Week for Darlington, and with it come a ton of fun throwback paint schemes. And everyone throws it back in some way or another, whether it's those in the broadcast, whether it's fans at the track or at home, whoever. Hell, we even had a throwback to the Darlington Craven Busch finish of 2003 at Kansas this past week. So what I want to do is look at the top 10. No, actually, the top 12. Darlington throwback schemes, because there's so many good ones this year, I don't think 10 is enough to cover the best of the best. At number 12, we have the Tiger Stripes of Cole Custer. A throwback to Johnny Sauter's 00 scheme. It's one that as a kid I absolutely loved, and it always stuck out on the track. This one is relatively accurate. I don't think it's perfect by any means. The stripes obviously aren't the same, but it does the job, and you know what scheme it's throwing it back to. Number 11, we throw it back to Daniel Suarez in Cup, to his throwback to Adrian Fernandez. I think it's cool having a throwback to an IndyCar driver. A bit of outside-the-box thinking that Trackhouse has been so good at since they entered into NASCAR and the Cup Series as a whole. The number font especially sticks out on this scheme. Yes, the color scheme and everything is very much accurate, as much as you can translate from an Indy car to a stock car in NASCAR, but I think the numbers is what stands out to me. It's not the normal Trackhouse font, and once again, they were able to go out and above and beyond for their only throwback to an old scheme, but also one of their throwbacks in total. Entering the top 10, we have William Byron's throwback to Jeff Gordon. And while it might seem stale and redundant to have the 24 throwback to Gordon, let's be honest, outside of William Byron, Jeff Gordon is the only driver who has ever done well in the 24 consistently, and is the only one to have ever won in it. So throwing back to his scheme, the DuPont at the end of the 2010s, I think is a really good fit. It's one that's not usually used, and there's plenty of others in the future you can use for the 24. It's not perfect, but it looks really good. HMS renders historically have had a bad look for these cars, so I don't take too much stock in it not looking too accurate. If it shows up this kind of wonky at the track, I will retract this from my list, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. This scheme is very much underrated compared to the Rainbow Warrior scheme, and even the early 2000s blue and red flames theme. At number 9, we're going to keep the Hendrick theme going, which is going to be a lot of this list, I will just tell you now, with Stuart Friesen's throwback to Jimmy Johnson, the 2010 600 scheme, to be specific. This scheme to me is underrated. There have been so many good red, white, and blue low schemes over the years that a lot of good ones can be lost in the fold, and it very much is reminiscent of the 2014 scheme that he won the 600 with as well. The 52 font reminds me of the Mears 25, which I think is one of the most underrated fonts that Hendrick has ever had for one of their numbers, even if it's the same one the 24 and the 48 always had. I am gonna say that this is gonna fit a truck really well, as at least the renders look great, and I think it's gonna look even better on the racetrack Friday night. In 8th, we have Jack Wood's throwback to Tim Flock and Jocko Flacco. This is one of the oldest schemes in NASCAR history, and one that I think really needed to be pushed out there a little bit. And when you have a car and driver as iconic as Tim Flock with his Hudson Hornet, well, I think that you need to have some kind of representation at Darlington of all tracks. This was the car that had Jocko Flacco in it, the monkey that was the only animal ever to willingly, or somewhat willingly, run in a NASCAR race. And seeing how I have a Jocko Flacco t-shirt, this one really hits home for me in a great way. At number 7, we have Ryan Ellis's Days of Thunder throwback. Listen, I'm always going to stand for a great Days of Thunder throwback, even if it can be overused, even if it's not original in any way, and even if this movie, at the time of recording, is 34 years old. But this is an accurate and honestly not too difficult to perfect scheme, and it sticks out on the racetrack. Too many times, both today and in the last couple years in NASCAR, schemes, whether they be red, white, black, whatever they might be, blend into the pack itself or get used interchangeably with different drivers, and it's hard to really connect and see them. This will not be a problem here, and this is one of the things from the 90s that needs to be brought back to the modern day. Entering the top half of this list, we got Ross Chastain's Busch beer car. This is an original concept. It's not an old Busch car like a lot of times the Busch cars will throw back to, and instead is a car designed off of the way that the cans and logos were for Busch back in the 2000s. And to be fair, while it is a bit dated when it comes to the logos themselves, it both looks old and modern at the same time, which is a good trait of the 2000s in many ways. And this is thinking outside the box that Trackhouse again masters so well. The top 5 starts out with Brad Keselowski's throwback to the Supra GT. Another cross racing throwback that I think could easily fit as the modern scheme for Castrol in the RFK system. And I think that with that, you can also, again, teach more about those in racing, not in NASCAR, to a widely NASCAR audience. Also, I'll say this, it's a perfect use of the number and sponsor space, and you could have fooled me by saying that this was just the new design that they had. In fourth, we have Alex Bowman's throwback to Jimmy Johnson. Of course, the 48 will throw it back to Jimmy, but this older 48 design is from 2002 to 2005. And I think that it's maybe not forgotten, but overlooked in many ways because this scheme, while finishing in the top 5 in points 4 consecutive years to start out his career, was never a title-winning paint scheme for Jimmy Johnson, which is kind of crazy to say with how much that team won. But this full car, from front bumper to rear bumper, from the bottom of where the tires touch the track to the top of the roof, all fit perfectly with minimal changes to the scheme. Only ones I really can see is maybe changing the Lowe's house, as it is a Lowe's scheme and property. Other than that, though, this one is damn near perfect. Taking the bronze is Chase Elliott with his throwback to Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s 2014 National Guard car. This car amazingly only raced 1 year, 2014, and it was incredibly memorable, winning the 500, Martinsville, and the start of a Pocono sweep. But many were disappointed by this, as Dale Earnhardt Jr. was rumored to be in the All-Star race, basically made up by fans, and it ultimately didn't happen with this announcement instead. But I'm a biased Earnhardt fan. This car looks really good on the next gen, even with the number moved forward, a number that I will say I appreciate the gold scales being on like it was back in the day, and I think that it's one that's going to stick out a ton at the track. With all of these older looking ones, instead we're looking at a car that's only 10 years past its prime. In the runner-up spot, we have Brennan Poole's throwback to Kyle Petty's Hot Wheels car. This looks just like the Hot Wheels car back in the day, one of which that I had as a kid. And I will say that all the way to the number, everything looks really accurate. I love it when sponsors will change their logos to fit this kind of design. And I think with that, it makes it even more fun and immersive and makes me want to support the sponsor more than if they would have been a sourpuss and just said, no, you're not going to change anything whatsoever. The best part for me on this is Alpha Prime. Overall, their throwbacks have been amazing over the years, and they're really the Trackhouse Racing of Xfinity Series designs. So another banger one from them. And with the win is Kyle Larson's throwback to Terry Labonte's 5 car from back in the 90s. This one looks damn near perfect. And I'll say this is a hot take. I think the forward number may actually make this scheme look better than it did back in the day, which as someone who doesn't like the forward numbers is saying something. It fits the Camaro nearly as well as it fit the Monte Carlo, and I love that the HendrickCars.com logo looks damn near alike to the Kellogg's logo with the same fonts and everything. This car, from the moment it was released, was going to be the one to beat when it came to throwbacks. And as of recording this, halfway through the week in Throwback Week, it really has not even been close to me to being beat. Kyle Larson opened up the month of May with a win in the Throwbacks and a win at Kansas. It's a really good month so far for Driver 5. So with that, I want to hear from you. What are your favorite throwbacks in 2024 and just in general that the Throwback Weekend has given out? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support, and until next time, have a good one.